Oops.
You want those?
Yeah.
That was a weird noise. Sorry.
Clean them for you and everything.
Oh, did you
sir.
clean the gunners? You rock.
No, just back up from
the best kind of gunners.
back up from the table a little bit. No, I'll relax you.
That's the only complaint I have about gunners is they don't stay very clean.
No,
No.
they get very smudgy very quickly.
Yeah, for as expensive as these were,
Right.
Obscenely expensive. I'm on my second pair.
quite that bad. I'm gonna
And-
mine too.
And since every single time that a competitor seems to come out of the woodwork, they shut them down.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I mean, you can go to like Zenny.com or some like Warby Parker, cheap glasses kind of site, get the same tint and even get them prescription and save like $90.
Yep.
Right.
They just don't advertise it like that, but you can go do it. So it works out all right. So next pair, I'd probably end up doing something like that because as much as I like him, I think it's a little bit of a scam. Just a tiny,
Yeah.
little bit.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, so I had a bunch of people called me out from when I called into TMS the Thursday that you were sick. When I won the Hearthstone card back.
Oh yeah.
But I was calling in from Google Hangouts, so I couldn't hear it that well, and I apparently admitted on air that I didn't know what Varsity Blues
Yeah.
was.
I think that I called you and yelled at you at the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's right. I forgot you were the winner that day.
Yeah, Dice Tomato called me out on Facebook, and I'm like, we were going from Hangouts to Skype to it wasn't destined to work.
No. That was some, we were doing magic, man. That was crazy that even worked at all, to be honest.
Right. All right, so YouTube is up.
Is it up? I don't have a
Yeah,
notification
YouTube
yet.
is up. So you should be able to hop into the chat room there.
YouTube sucks for that.
There we are.
With that notification, but once it comes in, it's great.
I
got it
think
now.
too, when just because you subscribe, it doesn't automatically notify. Like there's an extra checkbox you have to go check to get notifications for live.
Yeah, you have to. It doesn't just do it.
But anyway, alrighty, I do believe that we are good. Let me get Alpha Geek. Yeah, I love the setup that Todd has now. Like if you don't want to, you don't even have to use butt. Like you just hit the button and it automatically does everything.
Yeah, he's got it tweaked pretty good.
Yeah, the man works.
Way.
He works wonders.
Who doesn't want to use butt?
Yeah. I was emailing him and I'm like, can you make it so I don't have to use butt for my other shows? And I'm like, we really need to change the name of that program.
Yeah, butt is it's the butt of all jokes. The butt. Something like that.
It works. All right, bumpers are good. Let's get the video up on here. All righty, if you are good, we are good.
I'm so good. I'm ready to roll, man.
Cool.
I can't wait.
Live streaming provided by Alpha Geek Radio and Alpha Geek Video. Visit tunein.alphageekradio.com to learn more.
Probably could have turned that down a little bit.
I'm just glad you remembered that part.
Huh?
I'm just glad you remembered that.
Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 23 of Mind of a Geek. I am joined in studio, as always, with Mr. Brandon. Brandon, how's it going?
Oh, good. I've got Traveling Wilbury stuck in my head. Tweeter and the Monkey Man. I've got Porch Rocker beer. I'm taking it back, man. Things are good.
I probably should have cracked my beer open before we started, but that's okay.
That's all right. Add to the ambiance.
Our guest this evening requires no introduction at all. It is a huge honor of mine to have him on the show. From the Frog Pants Network, host of such shows as The Morning Stream, Boop, Core, and many others. Scott Johnson, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, it's good to be here. It's good to be with both of you today. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for taking the time.
Incomparable. I was hoping you were going to use that word, but no.
By the way, I like like hearing beer open during the show because that's I'm a big fan of like small Foley work in the middle of a podcast. Like I like to wrinkle up paper and things like that occasionally. Like when it sounds like it's real official or something. So don't worry about it.
I love
Pop
it.
that can, popping all the tabs.
You need that sense of realism for sure.
When you get the alternate titles on Film Sack. It's like find something on your desk to crinkle up.
Yeah, it's usually, in fact, I have to usually scramble. Like right now, I'd be kind of screwed. I don't have anything. I've got like a sheet of paper way over there, but I don't want to get up. So I'll just fake it next time.
It's all good.
I'll take anything. I'll take like a gum wrapper. It doesn't matter. It's like something to get me through that part of the show, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I just finished listening. Actually, on my way home from work tonight, I finished the Contact episode.
Oh yeah,
So-
that was an interesting episode. I'm still sort of torn on how I feel about Contact. You know, that movie is weirdly, in some ways, weirdly holds up, and in some kind of cool ways, and in other ways, kind of sucked. I can't quite figure out where I'm at with it. And every time I say something that someone else loves is bad, they always point out to me that I really like Waterworld, and I do.
I totally agree with you on that. I don't understand why that movie's...
It's a great game. Listen, anybody they can come to you all day and say, Waterworld is a piece of turd, and I say to them, yeah, but have you ever seen Paper and freaking there's guys underwater and jet skis that have guns somehow under there, and you know, like it's Mad Max in the water. I can't complain about
Dude,
it. So,
I will take a moist dystopia any day.
yeah, F those haters, man. That movie's great and bad, but great.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you on Contact, too. I'm split down the middle. It holds up, but it's shitty and great.
Yeah, shitty and great. That should be the title, or that should be the new box art for their 30-year anniversary Blu-ray edition. 4K, whatever.
We have Jodie Foster.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Jodie Foster, shitty but great. It's I mean, there are moments in that thing where you're like, oh, that's so cool, that idea, and what a really cool way to show this idea, and boy, you guys are ahead of your time in some ways, and then you go back and it's like, you guys are all idiots. You're all the worst scientists I've ever seen. So yeah, it's a love-hate thing, and sometimes in life you got to figure out how to make those two get along.
Indeed, you do.
And here Nate and I are.
Right. Making two things get along. So, tonight it's a huge honor and pleasure for me that you took the time to come on. Without getting too much into it, you were a main part of me podcasting. I fell in love with The Instance, went to TMS, and then slowly kind of transitioned to the other ones. So you were a big inspiration for that. The fun that you have on your shows and the community that gathers around you. So really, we are here doing this show tonight in multiple ways because of you.
Well, that's the nicest thing I've heard all day, man. Thank you. That's super nice to hear that. I usually, when I hear that sort of thing, and I hear it sometimes, I don't. It's always hard for me to know the best way to react to that news because I don't actually. There are times I'm not really sure how it's working. Like, we'll do shows, I'll have fun, I'll do a thing about a thing I love. It becomes, popular in the sphere of podcasting, and I don't really know why it is, but we keep doing it, and we have passion for it, and I guess that translates, and suddenly there's this quote unquote this community around it, and they kind of come out of nowhere in my mind, and I don't really have there's no science to it. I don't have like a plan. There's no like fancy tricks going on from my end at all.
Right.
It just kind of falls into place. And one of my favorite things that happens because of that falling into place is shows start popping up that say, oh, I was inspired by The Instance, and they end up having really good stuff, like great hosts, great content. And I'm a big believer in more the merrier in the podcasting space. I think there's room for so many voices, and it's a great way for people to find the voices that they most relate to. And so I'm always happy to hear that. But just so listeners know, I don't really know how it works. It's just freaking working. It's good enough for me.
I can tell you the greatest thing that's come out of this for me is the sense of community. And I've done this with him now for 5 months almost. Mm-hmm. And I've met so many great people, you included now. And it's just been, it's a great ride. Like, I've met so many cool people, and I've really enjoyed myself and just talking to them. I don't care about subscribership or anything like that. It's nice, but I'm just happy to be able to talk to these people and meet these people everywhere.
Well, the trick is, and this is a good attitude for you to have, the trick is the less you worry about the actual numbers and worry about your content, worry about your skills as podcasters and broadcasters, as you sort of develop yourselves out as unique voices in the space, what you end up doing is getting good numbers just happen. That just sort of attaches itself to the thing. So I'm a big fan of that, and it's worked for me so far. And maybe there's ways I could be a bigger nerd about numbers and make all that better. I don't know. But all I know is what's worked for me in the past is put your head down, love what you're doing, really put it out there, be willing to interact with the community in ways that's meaningful, talk about the things that you're passionate about, and you'll find people who have passion about the things you're passionate about. And before you know it, you have the numbers that you never thought you were going to get. And suddenly things look real good, and you're not even sure when it happened. But to me, it's a little ramshackle. It's a little, some would say aimless, some would say goalless, but it's just how I roll. I don't know another way to do it, and it works pretty well. New media, baby. It's all just a big slap in the face sometimes. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be working great for you. And like I said, the spawn around that and everything else like that, and and it's great, and it's a great community, and I've met so many friends in the Tadpool, and just all the things around that.
They're an amazing bunch, man. They some of them have been there since been with me for 10 or 11 years doing this, and when I started doing this, I had like a 4-year-old, and he's 15 now. Like, think of that.
Wow. So for the layman,
that's how old this medium is getting. Like, we actually can't call ourselves. At some point, we're gonna have to stop calling ourselves new media or whatever the crap we're calling ourselves these days, because at some point we're not new anymore. But yeah, once in a while I'll run into somebody in the Tadpool and they'll say, "Yeah, I was there for Extra Life Radio back in 2003, man. That was awesome." And I'll go, "Whoa, no way! You stuck around the whole time." And find out that these people never really left is heartening. And then I start thinking about, well, what's all the stupid shit I've said over the years? Have I screwed anything up with these people? Have I said something dumb? Like, you start questioning what 11 years actually is and how much content you've done. We were just talking the other day on TMS how we're at 1,030 episodes of that show.
Wow.
Since 2011, when we launched it in January of 2011, and it went by so quick, but it represents an hour and a half on average per episode, 1,030 times. That is a lot of time where we said a lot of things. Yeah. And I'll bet if I go back and listen to something from like early 2012, I'll say stuff I didn't know I said,
I've been doing this 4 months and I can't remember anything I've said.
Or I've predicted something that didn't come true, or, who knows? But once you get onto, you get this far into it and you start to realize, no, this community kind of moves with you as you go. That's maybe the best part, or my favorite part of this whole thing.
Cool.
For sure. So, we talk about, where it's led to, what it's become. So how did it kind of all get started? I mean, obviously, before TMS, there were other shows that existed. Like, I know Film Sack predates TMS. And then, prior to that, there was like Extra Life Radio and stuff like that. So how did you get into this new media wave?
Well, all right. So it goes back a little further, and I won't give the long and boring of it. I mean, it could go back as far as when I was like 8 to 10 years old, and all I wanted to do was record things on a tape recorder and draw all day. I mean, those were my two pursuits, and I cared about really nothing else other than, I love nerdy crap, and I was into Star Wars and Star Trek and everything that a kid my age should be into. But I didn't care about sports. I didn't care about this, even stuff I care about now. I like sports now, but when I was a kid, I could care less, and all my friends are playing basketball, and I was busy making fake radio shows in the basement on a tape recorder. And it was just all I ever really wanted to do. Those were the two things I loved, and I don't know what it was about radio, but like, the stupid Dr. Demento show was on Sundays at 10 o'clock, and I used to stay up and listen to that when I was in junior high, and just thought it was the bomb. And I thought one day I'm gonna have my own show, and I just think about all these ways I could have a talk show. And then jump ahead a bunch of years, and I had an opportunity through a friend that I worked with through this computer company I worked for at the time to do weekend radio spots for a computer help show here in Salt Lake City area on this KSL AM station. And every Saturday for like 3 hours, we'd take stupid calls from people like, "Oh, there's a gerbil stuck in my floppy drive," or "There's whatever it was." Right. And we'd give advice and help people out and stuff. And that was a really great taste of what it's actually like to be on the air, to take live calls, to start to understand the rhythm you need to have when you're on air and you're working with other people and you've got co-hosts and that sort of thing. So that was really, valuable experience. It was a free gig, but I did it for years, every Saturday, and it was great. And then jump ahead some, and I'm like, man, I sure wish I could get my comics published, and I wish I could get on some radio station. And I started to realize, man, the current system kind of blows goats, because for me to get onto a radio station and get a show in there and have creative control over it, that's an enormous undertaking. Not only would it take years and years and years, but it also means you need to know all the right people. You got to go through all the right channels. The way radio works these days, syndication and otherwise, it's owned by big conglomerates. There's no like small mom and pop sort of radio station kind of things happening anymore. Not of any note, really.
No.
I mean, it was just like a very wide base of people trying to get in and a very small gate to get in. And only a few are ever let in.
Yep. And now you have Clear Channel Media, and they own everything.
Exactly. That's a great example. And the same thing happened with comics publishing, which was another thing I was interested in and was pushing very hard. And I realized, oh man, there's like one gate, one place has the key. And if I want to get in there, I got to get through thousands of people who have better connections than I do. So it was very disheartening actually for a while there. And then along comes the internet, but not just the internet. The internet had been around, but the internet started to do things where I went, ooh, there's something happening here. This isn't just email and Usenet, right? This is like, there's stuff you can do here. And I started to realize, I could put my own content online. And I started with the comic, and I pushed that for a bunch of years and realized, yeah, I'm basically self-publishing. It's not quite the same as getting a syndication deal and guaranteed money and licensing and all that other stuff, but it's a way for me to get my art in front of people and build an audience, and realized very quickly that was kind of be a thing for me. And so I put a lot of effort into that. Then comes MP3s. So circa 98, 99, MP3s are a thing suddenly. And I figured out how I could record them. I mean, it was super hackery back then, right?
Right.
But I could record these things, and I could put them up on a website, and I could say to people, go to this website and download this file and listen to it on your Diamond Rio player or whatever crap you have. And, this is all pre-iPod, or for the not exactly. iPod was like 2000 or something, so things were starting to kick up. But it was a very early kind of web-based thing, and that went really well. We had Shoutcast servers. Oh my gosh, this is so long ago.
Oh, Shoutcast.
It feels like ages ago. So then that's an interesting thing. It kind of goes pretty well, but there was no way to get it to the masses. There was no way for everyone to easily get it. You had to kind of be a nerd to know how to even get an MP3 file to play. It's not, browsers all play it natively now, but it wasn't that way back then. So you had to like have players, download it, play it on Winamp. Bandwidth sucked. Like there was all these things. Yeah, and it sucked. It was a bad time, right? It was a rough time. We got through it, and about 2003, 04, roughly, there starts to be rumblings of this new thing called podcasting. I'd never heard of it. I started looking it up, figuring out what was going on, and RSS feeds and all this stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, the train has come in. This is my way to do it. And it's all history from there. Like I just went nuts and said, I'm going for it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I'm the only one listening to it. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it till I die, because this is my only chance to be an actual radio guy. It's the only way I'm going to be able to do it, because all the other doors are closed. And little did I know that not only would that serve me really well and be, the best possible thing for me, and the timing was perfect. All this stuff was great. But now we're getting to a point where the internet is the delivery mechanism for 90% of what we're going to consume, regardless of where we get it these days. Even traditional media sources tend to distribute things via the web or redistribute them there or whatever. And YouTube comes into play with that, and live streaming on Twitch and all this other stuff has all sort of played into this idea that I can go and make a thing, and I don't have to have an agent. I don't have to have 30 people in between. I don't have to have a bunch of weird contracts or the FCC breathing down my neck for content and trying to keep it all within whatever rules there are. None of that stuff. It all goes away. I'm my own creator, my own editor. I'm my own guy. And that was it. I just lit a fuse, and I'd say from like 2004 till today, it's fueled everything I do. It's been great.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like it seems like it was your thing from the beginning, like you mentioned, recording your pretend radio shows and stuff like that. And it's wonderful to be able to certainly live out a dream like that. And then,
I always thought it'd be cool if I could go back in time to that 10-year-old me and go, I think I've said this on other shows, but I'd like to go back and just go, hey, dude. And the kid would go, what? He'd be freaked out because some stranger's talking to him. And I'd say, I'd say, you know, you're not going to believe me, but I'm the future you. And one day when you're older, you're going to be able to have a job that is just you recording things and drawing things all the time. And that kid would have probably fled in fear and screamed for the police or something and not believed me. But you know, it'd be really fun to do that, because when I was that age, the world seemed like my oyster. And the 10 years after that, it proved not to be my oyster. It turns out the world's a lot more complicated than that. But then it got a lot less complicated when when we all got the power to do this. And I cannot overstate or state enough how important that is, not just to me and me personally, but I think to people and just the art of creation everywhere for everyone. Right. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. At least I hope not.
Definitely not. So you mentioned before how in the early days, Shoutcast, it's very hackery and all that. Would you say the advent of social media has helped you tenfold, or? Yeah,
like it's hard to say how much. Like back in let's go back, as like when I started the comic in 2001, the only way your comics got any notoriety or any kind of notice was people on forums would pass them around. People would email links around to each other. It was purely word of mouth, and that was it. Yep. There was no Facebook. There's not even MySpace. There's nothing that even resembles what we would refer to as social media today. So that was a lot harder. By contrast, today, if you launch a new property, whether it's a comic or a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever it may be, you've got a million ways to promote that thing. And suddenly that becomes a much easier part of the process. But there's a huge but. The downside is, I don't know if it's a downside, but here's one of the realities of it. Everybody can do it now, okay? Which is something I like. But we all can do it. And because everyone can do it, that is a huge crowd all barking at the same time, trying to get everybody's attention.
Right.
And everybody wants a piece of that attention. Everybody wants a little bit of those listening hours. Everybody wants a little bit of that viewership. And because it's being spread so thin, it's harder and harder to do it. And it's my theory as to why. It's not even a theory. I think it's just the truth as to why people in more traditional mediums have broken through podcasting and become big. People who were already well known before all of this. And again, nothing wrong with what they're doing, but the Kevin Smiths of the world and the Mark Marons of the world and you know, Corolla and those guys, they tend to people see that and go, oh my gosh, they're reinventing podcasting. No, they just came in with a huge base already.
Yep.
And they brought them into this, and now they're into this. And that was again, a net positive for the entire industry, in my opinion. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's so much harder to get seen. So despite the fact that you have all this social media now, I think it's harder in some ways. Because people tune you out. Like, it's a lot harder to get your voice heard in a much more crowded room. It's really it's that simple analogy for me.
I think I listen to the smaller podcasts that you don't really know about. Like, if you look at Smith and Marin and the Nerdist Empire, between those podcasts, you're hearing the same thing. They have the same guests, the same news. So for me, I went through that phase that got me into podcasting, and then from there, I veered toward the stuff that's more vague, you know?
Yeah, you're also getting experiences and voices that you're just not going to get with everybody interviewing the same actor all week because they've got something to promote.
Right.
And just, you know, not to say that stuff shouldn't exist or doesn't have a place. Like, I like a lot of NPR shows because I like the science stuff, and I really like, you know, Radio Lab and This American Life.
Radio Lab is great.
Various things like that. That stuff's great, and it really makes me think. But so it's not, you know, this isn't me saying, oh, well, curated radio of any kind, it just doesn't have a place among this kind of like punk rock world that the podcasters live in. But I really do like the offshoots. I mean, the only difference between me and pirate radio in the 70s, for example, and what I do with the morning stream,
you're not on a boat.
There's one. I guess that kind of pirate works. Welcome to the morning show. It's like that kind of thing. But the only real difference between me and that time period when people are sneaking around doing weird underground stuff like that is that A, you can get it pretty easy, but also B, I have a focus on quality. Like, I really want it to sound good. I don't want people to be complaining that we have terrible sound and that the mics are crap and that there's always buzzing in the background or any of the stuff that sometimes plagues the podcasters who are doing things a little bit more raw. Other than that, though, I'm a huge embracer of the idea that I want stuff I'm never going to hear anywhere else. I want something way off the mainstream.
Right.
I want to hear voices I wasn't going to hear otherwise. and podcasting is like this treasure trove of that stuff. So more and more you have to kind of dig to find it. Like when I started the instance, there were like 4 shows dedicated to World of Warcraft, and some of those were being flaky, and others I thought were terrible, and that's why I started it. Now there's hundreds and hundreds of them.
I noticed.
So, yeah, so it's hard. So, it's no longer, I mean, part of my luck with that show was timing. I got in at a time where there wasn't much that sounded great and still had an independent voice, but also focused on what we focused on and all that stuff. It all worked out really well for me and made that show hit really big right out of the gate, and is responsible for a lot of what happened after. But today, for me to launch a brand new show about World of Warcraft or any other popular game would be, it'd just sit there and kind of idle and be okay. Like
Right.
it's just, a lot of it is timing, unfortunately. And
Yep.
social media helps that. To answer your original question, it also in some ways hurts it because everybody's vying for your eyeballs, and it's harder and harder. So I don't know, when people start out new today, it's really hard to tell them what to do. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. When I started, I didn't have any of these options, so it's a little bit weird. Like if I was starting over now, I'd be terrified.
No,
It's
seriously.
just a different world.
There's a lot to it, and there are certainly a lot of sharks in the water. One thing that personally I love about podcasting, and it's one thing that I enjoy about it, is it's a very humble community. At least in regards to those of us that started with podcasting, like you talked about those that they had their fan base before they came in, and then they're there. But like with us, like, I mean, just this past couple weeks alone, we have you on tonight. We had Patrick Beja and Jerry on last week. And, between the 3 of you, you guys have been doing this for a while. All 3 of you are very successful. And here I am where I'm trying to break it out of it being a hobby for me, but it's still a hobby. I work a regular full-time job for the Postal Service that you like to make fun of so much.
Well, look at
Always,
him. Can you
man.
blame
Any
him?
chance I get, just give a little heat to the post office.
Of course. Well, I do too. But for me, it's really cool. And it's one of the things I appreciate. Like Brandon touched on earlier, you get to meet so many people. But not only that, but those of you that, for lack of a better phrase, those of you that have made it, like you remember day one. And when you've got someone who, has a little interview podcast that says, hey, would you like to come on sometime? As long as you got the free time, you have no problem doing that. Never in your mind would you have the thought of, oh, well, I don't need to do that. Like, how many listeners does he have? 12? Like, I don't need to be like that. Thought would never cross your mind. And there's the humbleness, and there's an appreciation for what you have, that you have for, what you've accomplished. And so you appreciate other people trying to accomplish that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, look, I've said this before and I believe it today. I'm not the Frog Pants Network and the shows that are in it and its following and all that stuff. None of that happens or is significant or works at all without a dedicated community who's dedicated and loyal and interested and even willing to call you out on your crap when you say something dumb, or, it's more of a family than a bunch of strangers,
right,
in very real ways. Nerdtacular rose out of that. That was an effort to say, well, all right, we're kind of like a bunch of friends anyway. Why aren't we hanging out more? BlizzCon accomplishes a lot of that as well. Like there's these chances for us to actually meet and greet in real life, but I don't for a second believe that most of this is me. At the very least, it's a 50-50 relationship with the audience, and maybe closer to 60-40 on their favor.
Right.
Because without them and without their sort of, love of the stuff that we're doing and the support of it, and quite literally their financial support in many ways, there is no shows. There is none of this stuff. It all goes away, and I go back to, being a graphic designer for somebody for the rest of my life or whatever.
Right.
So it's a symbiotic relationship that doesn't, that without, I don't think this works. So on the other side of that, for me to get 10 years into it and have some measure of success and notoriety, and then to forget all that or to push that aside and say, well, I'm up to this new tier. Sorry, suckers. See everybody later, would be the epitome of a-hole behavior. And
right.
I don't desire that, nor do I want my kids to see that that's the way you do anything in life. It seems almost like a trope to say, oh, well, always remember where you came from. Because everyone says that. And it does seem like an old thing you hear from your grandpa or something, but it's true. You shouldn't forget where you came from or what it took to get where you're at or who helped you get there or, all those things. And in a lot of cases, some of my favorite peers that I work with now started out as fans of shows of mine. Like Patrick came out of the instance. He used to send in a segment and say, "This is Patrick, and here's your mod of the week," and he'd do this little mod of the week thing. It was his first foray into podcasting.
Right.
Well, now I don't look at him as like, well, you stay right there, lowly fan, and keep doing what you're doing because this is the relationship. I'm up here and you're down there. Not at all. He and I are collaborators in a very real, true way, and I have nothing but respect for what he does. Patrick was, I knew from the day we got his first segment that Patrick was going to go on to do something rad.
Right.
And it just felt right, and I'm just happy to be around while he's doing it. Like that to me is everything. And I'll give you, there's other examples of this, and I don't want to throw shade on big podcasters with their 200,000 downloads per episode guys or any of that. But it's easy to look at them and go, oh well, on that episode today, he said back when podcasting started in 2010, and all of us roll our eyes like, no, it didn't. I'm sorry, that's just when you started in 2010.
Right.
But this idea that this whole other layer doesn't exist is probably not the healthiest thing. But once again, we're crossing streams. That's like taking traditional Hollywood and mixing it with a local community theater and expecting everything to be normal.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. But I think it's crucial that you not only remember where you came from, but go the whole way with them. And so it never really feels like you're going anywhere. The truth is, I look at our community and the friendships I've made and the co-hosts I've found who have all come, by the way, through they were listeners or followers of the comic or some other way. Mm-hmm. And in some cases they came to me, but that's kind of been the relationship. To me, I don't ever look at it as like, I remember when you came to my door, a poor, empty-handed podcaster, and now look at it. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's just smart people doing good work, and at the end of the day, we're making rad stuff, and it's just as simple as that. I would never want to tarnish that relationship from all the way down to the guy who just listened today, who might one day collaborate with me, to somebody like Tom Merritt, who I've been talking to since 2005.
Right.
All the way up and down. That just could not be more important.
I think staying grounded like that and not being jaded is what keeps the quality of your shows high. That being said, you are a top tier podcaster. So amidst oversaturation in the quote unquote wilderness years of podcasting now, do you foresee regulation coming? Do you think that they're going to come down on the freedom of podcasting?
I'm really glad you asked that. They would have to broadly do that with the internet. I feel like the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think they can.
It's too big to stop now, right?
Yeah, they can try. Like, in some countries they certainly try. There's, the great firewall of China is not a joke. They literally filter everything. And so what do people do? They get around it because they VPN and they do other things to get around these restrictions, and there'll always be a way. Like that, this is truly a signal that cannot be stopped. So let's just talk about the US for now. For them to ever go, all right, we need to start regulating podcasts for content or whatever, I just can't see it happening. It's just there's too many other facets to the internet that have nothing to do with podcasts. They would have to in effect regulate all of it.
Right.
There's no way the world's doing that. There's no way we're letting them. And it's a very self-sustaining, self-growing, despite its ugly sides. There's plenty of ugly on the internet, man. Like, it is an ugly butthole sometimes. People are saying some of the meanest things you'll ever hear in your entire lifetime on the internet. Usually behind an anonymous name, and they're a bunch of pussies and fight me in real life anyway. But nonetheless, it's a place of, it can get real greasy in here. But it also, it's got this self-regulation that just lets the good stuff shine. And I think podcasting is well on its way to never being touched by regulation. I mean, it may be blocked in some countries because that's just the way they do things. But here in the States, it's too much. We're already out. There's no going back. You cannot stuff that genie back in the bottle and hope that no one, noticed.
Yeah, I think it would be similar to like if the Postal Service, and I just make this reference because I work for them, if they tried to get something on email, because like our first class letters are going downhill, and they had something proposed in the 80s about email, and some idiot old man said, no, that'll never be anything. That'll never compete with us. But now if they ever tried to control that, like you said with that, the genie's out of the bottle. Like, they would never get their handle on that.
and it's a really good analogy for it. It's maybe oversimplification, but it holds for me. It's too hard now. You can't go back and change it. The reason that TV and radio and all that stuff was so shut down is because you had a few people who knew how it all worked, and then a giant millions and millions of people who have no idea.
Right.
You just want them to get a TV and receive the stuff. They'll just take whatever you can give them. Like, there was no freedom in that. There was just a one-to-many broadcast system, and that was it. Now you're talking about the most nuanced culture and the history of ever. You can't go try to control that. Like, there's just not, it is not humanly possible. And so they can try, and there may be attempts at it. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, they seem to come at it from more of a bandwidth and who gets to have it kind of standpoint. And regulating all of that stuff does affect what we do, you know, throttling for some and not for others, that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But even coming from that angle, at some point, it just prevails. It's a rising road, and there's a zip they can do about it. It's too much here. It's like saying, I don't know, it's elephant in the room. What are you going to do? Shove them out the door that's not big enough? You're going to have to tear the house down.
Right.
Another analogy. See, that's not bad. I put that one right out.
Write that shit down.
Yeah. Somebody mark down today's date. This is a big day.
So for my own personal curiosity, obviously, you know, you talked about the instance, and anyone that knows you knows that you have a tremendous love for Blizzard.
Yeah.
And I share that boat with you as well. I started playing with Warcraft back in '94, and it's grown since then. I have the Frostmourne tattooed down my back. I am a huge Arthas fan. So how did that all get started for you? I mean, obviously your love came before the instance because your love for it is what started that. So where did that all kind of begin for you?
Well, for me, it started as early as the early 90s. It started with like Lost Vikings, and like I was really into that stuff, all of their early games. And I remember right around the time of Warcraft, I remember thinking, oh man, especially Warcraft 2. I was like, this is not just some fly-by-night thing. These guys are serious. They're an important game company. I don't even know why yet. I don't know why I think they're so important yet. Diablo further cemented that. Diablo 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. And this is way before WoW. Like, all this stuff we're talking about is before World of Warcraft became. And so I was already a fan. I'd played StarCraft to death in the late 90s. 1998 was a huge year for me in terms of gaming, and I played that. Oh my gosh, I played that game
every day after school, man.
Yeah, man. Like, it was, I mean, I was like, what was I, early 20s. So older than you guys, obviously, but
Not by much.
Man, it was just all I could think about was getting home, turtling up, and kicking the crap out of some Terran a-hole online. Like, it's all I really wanted to do. And, you know, previous to this, video games have always been a big, huge part of my life. Like, my dad had arcades when I was a kid. We used to travel around and change quarters out of machines and make sure that the arcades are running well. And like, I was just in my blood since I was a little kid. And, you know, from Space Invaders right on up to today's cutting edge games, I just can't seem to stop. So the love for Blizzard was deep and early, and it also, Blizzard's primarily responsible for me even caring about computers or PCs as gaming devices. They're the reason why I would always want a new rig or always want a better computer or whatever. So in a lot of ways, they're responsible for me loving the platform. But then things really started to change when I started the comic. People within Blizzard were fans. I'd do it like a joke about Warcraft Frozen Throne or something from Warcraft 3. They'd send me a note and say, oh my gosh, everyone here in the office loves it. This is great. We printed it and hung it up. Good job. By the way, do you want a free beta key to, you know, Frozen Throne or something? And it was just, this relationship started to bud even back to them when they were a much smaller company. And then when WoW hit, I got in very early on the Friends and Family Alpha, and very cool people there. Again, were reaching out, and they were saying, you know, you're an evangelist for this stuff, so we really want to get you, you know, we want to get you some early stuff. They were always very kind to me that way. And then as time went on, it just made sense. I was like, well, here's World of Warcraft, and nobody's doing a good show about it, so let's do this. And before I knew it, that thing was honking huge.
Right.
Kind of took over my life. And that really exploded it. But then what that did is I started to find out, oh my gosh, people at Blizzard are listening to this show. Now I'm really freaking out. Am I saying the right things? Am I saying stupid things? Like, how are they perceiving it? And they would give us feedback that we like the show because we don't always think of the stuff you guys are talking about. It's like really informs us as to what the community is thinking about what we're doing. And that just built and built. I got to interview people. I started to be able to meet some of these people, and I've got friendships up there that I'll never, that'll always be there.
Right, for sure.
So what started as I just love your video games turned into this weird personal relationship with a company I never thought I'd have.
No, it's amazing.
And I try really hard not to take it for granted. Like, I could right this second text Chris Metzen and say, dude, let me in the Overwatch beta again. I know no one's in there, but please let me. And he might do it if I asked him nice enough. But I'm not going to, because I really value that relationship. And he's awesome, by the way. He's the nicest human being on the planet.
There's a level of jealousy from me alone, just that you can text Thrall whenever you want to.
Yeah, text Thrall, or he was all kinds of voices in the old days. But yeah, no, he's one of the most creative, generous, sort of sensitive, creative souls I've ever known. And I wouldn't have had this opportunity had I not done all that stuff. Like, I would have never got to meet him. And he reached out to me because I knew Kat, and he's married to Kat, and it all kind of worked out that way. And we have this friendship that I really value. I never want to look at that and go, look at us here with the cool relationship. Take that, world. I'm not interested at all in what that side of it means. I'm more interested in these actual relationships. So and you know what, this brings up a good point, and I don't mean to ramble about this answer to this question.
Oh, go ahead.
At the end of the day, if I've learned anything about any of this stuff, is that it's all down to people once again. Like, it's not really about the game of World of Warcraft in the instances case, and any more than TMS is about the stuff we cover, or Film Tech is about the movies we review. It's about the co-hosts I work with and those relationships. It's about the people I play with and those relationships. And it's about the company, in this case with Blizzard, that makes the games, seeing how the sausage is made, knowing how the kind of work, sweat, tears, creativity, pain, and decision making that goes into what they do to make what they make. At the end of the day, it's just about those people. Like, it's about their game, yes, and I love their end product, and I can't wait to play whatever they do. But I'm way more into how their brains tick, and where did they find this talented guy, and why does that guy love Nintendo games so much, and will we see some of his love for that bleed into the next Blizzard title because he has an influence there. And like, it's all about those relationships at the end of it all. So I'm convinced that that's true across the board. 90% of what I do, I would quit everything I do right now if I didn't have the relationship I have with my wife and kids. They make all of it way better. Raising kids, especially teenage kids, when you are perceived as quote unquote a cool guy on the internet, you wouldn't believe how far that goes in helping you parent better. because they don't have the built-in, Dad, you're lame. You don't know what Facebook is, Dad. You're so lame. Like this, they don't do that in my house.
Well, I'm sure they probably
I had Snapchat before my kids had it.
They probably also have friends that are fans of yours.
Yeah, they run into this. Like, what was it the other day? Nick was in school. Oh, I know what it was. So all right. So Nick's in school, and he's got a friend who's flipping through some. Kids are way into like being bored at school on their cell phones and looking at like meme pages, just like ifunny.com or .co, just looking at a billion stupid memes about cats, and that's their thing.
Right.
And this guy's flipping through some stuff, and he sees one of my comics, and it's got like 60,000 likes and 800 comments, and just thinks it's so funny, and he shows it to Nick, and Nick's like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Check it out, it's totally funny." And he reads in this joke, and then Nick goes, "Oh, that's my dad's." The kid goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, my dad drew that." He's like, "No way, dude! Your dad's Scott Johnson!" And he started like losing the kid's mind. Now he's like one out of like a billion kids who gives a shit who I am. But
right.
You cannot understate how important that is for me to like get a text from my son midday and have him go, "Dad, this kid didn't tell me this story," and have me go, "Oh, that's so cool," and be able to talk to him and say, "Oh yeah, and by the way, when you get home, we got to watch that Magnificent Seven trailer. Oh yeah, save it for me. That'll be cool." Like, you can nerd out with your kids in a way. I guess what I'm saying is my chosen career and lifestyle has made it possible for me to get the way more out of my relationship with them as their father, and as their friend, and the kind of teamwork my wife and I have. Like, all of this stuff is kind of core to what I do.
Right.
So thankfully it's kind of radiated out, and everything else sort of evolves around it. But like I was saying, at the end of the day, as scatterbrained as my answer is, at the end of the day, we are all in it for the relationships. We're all in it for the people. It's like our most core human need. is to connect on this level. And every day I get to connect that way
Right. For sure.
thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of people in these small ways. It's like a dream come true, and I didn't even know I had the dream.
Nate, everything he just said makes me want to give you a hug, man.
I don't know, man. If you went back and listened to this again or slowed it down, I might be a little Donald Trump on everybody with like talking all over the place and never actually saying anything. But
Oh, it's huge.
I can't even get you as a guest on a podcast without you saying Donald Trump. What the hell?
look, he's given me a lot of entertaining moments. So
Listen, podcasting is huge.
Huge.
It's going to be great.
It's huge.
high energy. It's high energy. Yeah.
I'm a fan. But that's one of the things, that's what really made me, develop an admiration for your shows and for you. I mean, one of the things that you do that I enjoy the most is the Diary of a Cartoonist, because you pull back the fourth wall and you're completely real with it. Along with having the pleasure of meeting you at BlizzCon, I got to meet your wife, and it's amazing just the level of hi, welcome to the family. Like it's really cool. I think we sent you guys Christmas cards the last couple of years.
Yep. We did.
And
that was totally nice of you, by the way.
yeah,
What's the opposite though? Like the only other, I don't know any other way to do this. Like if we're at an event like BlizzCon and people come up and go, I love your shows. I love this. I love that. Man, remember that one time? Yeah, that was great. Anyway, we should play sometime. Like, what am I going to say? Get away from me. You suck. I don't know you. Like, it's not in us to do it.
No.
So because it's not in us, I also want to make this clear. It's not fake either. Like we genuinely love it. Like it's something that I don't love the attention. Like I don't like it when people are like, oh, Scott, amazing, this and that. I don't like the compliments. It makes me feel uncomfortable sometimes because I just feel, I don't know. I just feel like a dork.
I apologize for complimenting you so much this episode.
No. It's not that. I don't even mean it in a very negative way. I'm just not good at accepting compliments. I never have been. So what I usually do is turn that energy into, all right, well, this guy has taken enough of his time to tell me something nice. So let's do the other part of this transaction and be human beings here and have a great time. Right. And then, to me, it's just that simple. Like I don't know any other way. It sounds cocky, but I don't know any other way to be about it.
I don't think it comes off as cocky.
The alternatives suck. Like you hear about these people you just love and admire in movies or on TV or something, and then you meet them in person and they're just like total dicks. It's the most depressing thing ever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like that story where I went to that Star Trek convention and tried to get John Delancey to sign a photo of himself, and I was $1 short of the $30 he wanted. I was $29. I had no other cash on me, and they didn't take cards. And he wouldn't do it for $100 and turned away from me like I was the world's biggest turd.
The Q continuum won't take less than $1 to the exact amount.
I mean, I always thought, well, Q's kind of a dick, but I bet John Delancey's super nice. No, it turns out he's just kind of he's all right. I'm not going to judge him for this one thing. But the point is, if that's the law, if you're a Star Trek guy, I would be a terrible Star Trek guy because I would say, oh, you only have $5. It's fine. Come here. I'll do, I couldn't do what they're doing where they turn people away. I freaking couldn't do it.
And again, I think that's what attributes to your success is you said genuine, the word genuine. Definitely. I think that plays a big role in podcasting.
Well, I'm glad that people whenever I hear they like the diary thing, I'm glad because that is a very personal thing. Like I'll share stuff about myself or my life that I don't talk about anywhere else. And it's not like it's a bunch of secrets or anything. It's just the only place where it makes sense to talk about some of that stuff. But I don't know why I feel the need for that. But somebody told me a long time ago, an adult in my life told me, it says, look, true character comes from being the exact same person in public that you are in private. So we have enough people in this world that put on a public persona that is not like they are when you're with them and being real. And I that really stuck with me. So that seemed like an important principle, something you could apply to a lot of different parts of your life. And so for me, I knew if I was going to go for this and I was going to be on the internet, that meant that there wasn't going to be a dividing line where I couldn't show myself. I would have to either be who I am or I'd have to play Two-Face McGee and be a totally different person. And I don't want to do that. I would much rather just be who I am. That's less work for me.
Right.
So it's even a selfish reason. But
Right.
what you hear on that show and what you hear me talk about on TMS and what you hear me say about my life, it's all real. Like none of this is a bunch of hoke. I remember you're talking about Justin Robert Young, who was on your show last week. Justin came out to my house once to stay with us over a couple of nights while he was doing work here. And he told me later, he says, I went out there fully expecting to be really disappointed that your life wasn't like you had been showing everybody.
Right.
Like that your radio thing was some, bull crap, and that you and your wife argue all the time and your kids hate your guts and they're on drugs in the in the alley somewhere.
Right.
He says, I really didn't expect to come and then find out that is all the way it is, including my sarcastic, stupid humor, my dumb dad jokes, like all of that stuff that what you get is what I guess I could sum all this up by saying what you hear me say and what you see is literally what you're getting. That is me, warts and all.
I will say, in reference to specifically the Diary podcast, the moment that rings in my memory that really struck an emotional chord for me was back when your daughter got married and you made that collection of clips.
Yeah.
And all I could think of was my little girl. My little girl's 5 now. So she was probably around 3.5 or so when it was been about a year and a half, right?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Exactly that, actually. It's 2 years in September, so about a year and a half.
Nice. So, and I remember listening to that, and I was at work, because working in the plant at the post office, I listened to podcasts all day at work. And I was sitting there almost in tears, listening to that amazing collection of audio you put together, because all I could think of was my little girl growing up. You know what I mean? And ever since then, I make sure I do at least one audio recording with her once a year. And she's even started her own YouTube show with me called The Lizzie and Detta Show. So
awesome, dude. That is so cool. Like this is the thing I hope a lot of people, I hope they pay attention to what you just said, because you live in a time, everybody, where you can capture everything.
Yeah.
And you capture like real important stuff with your kids. And in my case, I was using some crappy portable recorder or whatever when they were little and not really thinking about it. There was no podcasting when my 18-year-old now, when she was 5, there was, none of that stuff existed. So, I didn't know how invaluable that stuff would be to me today. When I find that audio or I find little video clips of us at the park or whatever, I mean, that stuff's like gold.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. So yeah, I'm glad that struck a chord for a lot of people, that episode, but it was something I felt like I just had to get out. It was like me hitting a real mile marker in my life of always feeling like kind of the young guy in the crowd, and suddenly I went from that to someone who has a daughter old enough to be married.
Right.
That seemed weird and made me feel both old and proud, and I don't know, like a torch was being passed, but I don't know. It's really a bunch of weird emotions, and that was a great way for me to express all that, was to just get that out of my system in audio form. It was good.
Oh, for sure, and it was expressed really well. Like I said, I really like it when there's a new diary that comes out. I like it because it's Scott, it's one mic, it's whatever's on your mind and whatever you want to share, and I think that is a really cool peek through the porthole that is the life into Scott. So
Thanks,
we had an email. What's
Gotta
that?
do it more. But I'll start doing it more. That I can promise. I've been pretty bad about it lately.
You're really busy, especially with you've got. I love the fact that you kept the NVIDIA thing going, even though it's not the NVIDIA thing anymore.
Yeah, they basically cut everybody out and went away with the contracts, which is fine. They're shifting focus and everything, but I just was bugged to the point that I'm not bugged at them, but bugged that this wouldn't be a thing anymore. And I just thought, well, I want to keep doing this. So I'm glad people are still watching it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's a blast. I've been on there watching, and I think I even played. I don't know if it was during the stream itself, but yeah, I was on there running Heroes with you guys a couple times.
Yeah. So we're always up for more of that stuff.
Heroes is a blast. Have you played Tracer yet?
Yeah, she's great. Got her early because of the pre-order for Overwatch, so we had her a week early, and she's awesome. She's great. The way she zips around like a freak is very addicting. She's great.
Oh yeah, no, it totally is. So we had a question submitted via email by Carrie Sims. She puts on there, co-host of Trivia Geeks and Devil's Advocast. So I will say that because Devil's Advocast I am also on.
Cool.
She says, since starting podcasting in 2003, What major roadblocks have you encountered that have made you only grow as a person and an entertainer?
Oh man. Well, I hate the word entertainer, but I'll take it's fine. For this for this whole thing, I'll take it. It just sounds like Bob Hope was an entertainer.
Jump through
That's
that
like
hoop, monkey.
It just feels like from a different era, like let's check in with Bob Hope as he dances the night away. It just feels like it's out
All
of
right,
the
you
era.
have
But
to
anyway,
you have to answer the question in that voice.
yeah,
'Cause you're
I'll do the whole
entertainer.
thing in my 30s excited newsreel guy.
Puke
voice.
it into the mic. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say they knew a lot about when I started. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know that I've ever hit too many major roadblocks or things that I had to overcome with it. I think the biggest one was there's only been 2 times in the history of any of the shows I've done, and I won't be specific about names or anything, but there's only been 2 times where I had to either end something or move somebody out of a role because of personality conflicts. It's one of the things I pride myself on. I work with a ton of different people from all sort of walks of podcasting, and have had nothing for the most part but great experiences with them. I cannot say enough about my TMS co-host Brian Ibbett. He's a great friend and a great co-host. I can't say enough about all those guys. Everyone is awesome. But there's been 2 times in the history of this stuff where I had to kind of have this come into Jesus moment with a couple of people and make hard decisions. And I think the fact that I didn't wimp out when I had to make those decisions probably gave me a boost, probably helped me in ways that I wasn't even aware of at the time. And I look back on it now, and they were kind of strengthening. They made me realize that you've got to have the confidence sometimes to make hard calls like that. We all like to think that, this internet content is somehow better than what old school content is. And at the end of the day, we still have some of the same problems. We have to decide when to cancel something. We have to decide when something's gone on too long or has said too much, or when somebody is not jiving with somebody else and the rhythm is wrong, and you have to address those things. Like, those are all realities of the business, and coming to grips with those over the years in varying degrees has helped me be a better show producer, better host of shows, better creative guy, and I think just a better businessman probably. And I don't really think of myself as much of one, but I think that stuff helped me a lot in small ways.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So before you ask that next question,
Sure.
a quick aside. Behind you, the artwork.
Yeah.
Am I seeing a TARDIS right there?
Yeah. So it's so I drew this here. Let me pull it up and show you. Drew this a while ago. It's actually on our print store. It is Doctor Who. Let me see if I can look.
Oh man, yeah, I see
It's
it.
Doctor Who golfing in the clouds off the top of some sort of landmass. I don't know how. This is probably some high peak anyway. But just taking a break from traveling.
I can buy that.
Oh yeah, of course.
I am buying that.
Frogpants.com/store, and it's
I'm buying it right now.
it's it's kind of Tom Baker
Yeah,
era.
yeah, I see it. That's
With his scarf and everything, but he's just cracking golf balls off into the sky.
Vikings aside, that is my favorite show.
Dude, Vikings is awesome, man.
Yeah, I love Vikings.
Did you hear about the you could go more detailed, but the Vikings actor who got cast in the Dark Tower?
Yep, Travis.
No, who?
Ragnar, he's in the Warcraft movie.
Oh, that guy. He's in Dark Tower as who? Do we know?
Oh, Dark Tower. I thought you were
Dark
talking
Tower
about
guy.
Warcraft.
No.
No, Ragnar is in Warcraft. Lagatha, she's in the Dark Tower movie.
Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah, it's cool,
Wait,
right?
who's she gonna play though?
I don't know yet.
Because I've been hearing Aaron Paul for Eddie.
Yep.
If that's true,
I don't think he's a good Eddie Dean, man. I don't agree with that casting at all.
I could not. Okay, let me say this. If I'm just to think about it from a surface level Jesse Pinkman kind of view, he is Eddie, but that's only because I've seen him as a kind of sardonic, sarcastic, nihilistic sidekick
Right.
in another show. Whether or not he can pull that off, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's where it ends for me, though. I don't think he fits in that universe at all.
I'm a little worried about it, but I'm less worried than I'm not worried, or I'm less worried than I should be. Maybe I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see. I think he has range. I think he'll be okay.
I don't like McConaughey as the Man in Black. I don't think that he's going to be able to pull that off at all. I like Idris Elba as Roland. I don't care about the whole race debate. That makes no difference to me. I think he'll do a good job. But McConaughey,
Yeah. You don't think so? He can
No,
get pretty
man.
creepy, dude.
can you see him tittering as described in the book? Like in the end of the first Dark Tower when they're at the Golgotha and they actually have the size, gunslinger, size, that whole debate. I cannot see McConaughey pull that whole diatribe off at all. I just
He might after. Okay, I am an enormous fan of McConaughey. Most of McConaughey's recent work. I think that his role
Right.
in the first season of True Detective was amazing.
yeah, no, I agree. And Rain of Fire. I love Rain of
All
Fire.
that-
If you want to
all
go
that
back
being
to like
said,
Waterworld type
all-
movies, Rain of Fire is a movie that I love.
Sure. All that being said, I don't. You may be right about his ability to not just be McConaugheying up the role.
Right. All
But
right,
I'm
Gunslinger.
more excited about him doing it, maybe primarily because it means it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're taking it seriously because they hired McConaughey and he agreed to do it. Like
Right.
I don't know why that seems to add credence to this thing getting made. And maybe it's because we've been screwed for so long on that deal. It's my favorite book series ever.
Is it really? Oh man,
Oh, yeah.
you and I can be friends.
I loved it, dude.
When I was a teenager and which one is your favorite book?
For me, it goes. I still have a really special place for one.
Yep.
I love Gunslinger. I love 4.
Oh, 1 and 4. I love you. I'm in love with you now. 1 and 4.
Did
Wait-
you read any of the comic stuff they did for Marvel?
yeah,
that was
I have
all
it
set
all.
around the 4 era. It's
I
pretty
have
good.
it all, yeah. But
Yeah, it's really good.
Wizard and Glass, when Susan died,
Yeah.
I was 16 when I read that book for the first time.
Oh, it was amazing.
That was right in the middle of my first love, and given the correlation in age, because Roland
Yeah.
was about the same age, I used to walk to her house and I'd walk home and I'd look up at the moon and I would think char you tree and come reap. Oh man, I would cry when she died.
Oh my
I was
gosh, you're
so
making me
into
want to
that
read all
book,
that
man.
again. It's been a while. I've been through all those books like 4 times, so it's probably time to get back to them. But yeah, and
That's
then they kind of go from I don't know. I kind of like all the rest about the same.
Yeah,
the
I'm
only
with
thing I
you.
don't like is Stephen King putting them in his own book.
I
But other than that,
totally agree. I didn't think that was a good move, nor did I think Wolves of the Kala when he brings up like the Sneetch and Harry Potter shit and lightsabers and Doctor Doom. I didn't need all that, man.
yeah, I don't know. He got a little weird
Yeah,
in that era, but I think it finished strong, and I liked.
yeah,
Man, I liked everything. The first 4 books are just such a great read. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
yeah. Now I want to go back and read that. Can we?
I'm gonna read them again. Yeah.
Can we
And
get
that
out of
new-
here?
The supplemental one's pretty good too. What was the new one called?
Went through the keyhole.
Yeah, that is pretty good. I
Yeah,
liked
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I mean, it's a nice. It felt like I don't know. It felt like an attached thing. It wasn't necessarily. It didn't feel like canon
It's
per
Shadow-
se.
it's
or
Shadows
it
of
felt
the
like a
Empire,
special
man.
project. Yeah.
Shadows of the Empire for the Dark Tower. I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
said 1 and 4 though, because all of my friends disagree with me on that. A lot of them hate 4, and I love 4.
Yeah.
I'm so emotionally
Four's
attached to that
amazing.
book.
4's backstory is so good.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my gosh, they're crazy. They're wrong. And also, 1 people think is boring.
No, definitely not. That book.
1 is so important. It just sets this tone. It has this like. It's what captured the whole thing for me. All the rest of the books are okay without it. Like I need that to be there.
So did you read it again after he went back and edited it so it was more in line with the continuity? He brought in what?
I did. I think I read it first when I was pretty young. I want to say, well, it wasn't all done then, but I read a lot of it in high school,
Right.
up to where he was done. And then after that, or after the changes, I think is when I went back. I've also read, so I've read it book, like, words on paper, like 2 of those 4 times, once each on like a Kindle, and then once all of it audiobook, except maybe Gunslinger twice with the George Guidell reading.
Right.
It's incredible.
It's better than. Doesn't Stephen King do his own reading of that book?
He did 3 for sure. I don't know about the rest of them because the ones, so there was George Guidell who went back and redid most of them,
Yep.
and they're all amazing. He's insane. And then the other guy who was before him, I forgot his name. Crap, he died, and that's why they brought in Guidell. Can't even remember his name. Anyway, he did a bunch of them. He was okay. It wasn't, no. It's kind of a middle for me. I didn't really care either way. And
Yeah.
then Stephen King did 3, and I heard 3 all the way through with him doing it.
I find him hard to listen to.
That was rough, dude.
And I've met him. Like, we live in Maine. I grew up in Bangor, where he's from.
Yeah.
And
You guys have clowns living in sewers and stuff, or what's
oh,
it like?
totally. Pennywise lives, man. Dude, I live near that water tower, that they reference in that book.
Weird.
So there was a Walgreens when I was a kid. I was like 9. I held the door open for him.
I always wonder
there's
what
my
Maine,
claim to
people in
fame.
Maine think of Stephen King, because I mean he certainly references Maine constantly in his books, and,
Right.
and you know these different cities and stuff. And I always wonder, is it like I don't know, like people loved Paul Hogan here in the States in the 80s, but the Australians couldn't stand him? Is it that kind of thing, or what?
No, I think he's universally loved here. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
he's
sure.
great.
There's an article in the paper today where he answers all these political questions. It's like 25 questions with Stephen King.
Oh wow!
So I don't
That's
think
awesome.
I don't think his relevancy has gone away.
There aren't
And-
many celebrities that come out of Maine. So when we have one that comes out of Maine, we grasp onto them pretty hard.
Yeah, right. Hey man, we have McDreamy, we have Stephen King. It's good enough.
Yeah,
That's true. Stephen King is so like intrinsic to that area too that I mean it's almost like they owe him a little for the painterly way he has always portrayed Maine in every book he writes.
Yeah.
Right.
I love his books. Oh my gosh, I love Cell. I love freaking 11/22/63.
Did you see the trailer for Cell?
So I saw the show up to the 3rd episode, and I haven't finished it yet. Everyone's telling me it gets real disappointing.
Yeah.
That's sad because I love that book.
Yeah.
Just ate it up like it was nothing. And I'm like 6th reading on The Stand. I read The Stand like every couple of years.
What I love
just
about
love
his
it.
books is that, again, with the Dark Tower, all of those universes are connected.
Yeah.
It's just this
Yeah.
overarching thing it's great.
Yeah.
Eyes of the Dragon,
Yep.
great book.
Yep. Really good. It's all good. I don't know. There's even his weird spy novel stuff he did recently. Not spy, but mystery novel stuff was
Colorado
really good.
Kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Stuff's
bad.
Great. I wish he'd do a Western. I guess he kind of did with I mean, Dark Tower is kind of a Western. But,
Yeah,
like a straight up Western I'd be all up in that.
it would be cool.
Yeah.
Are you a Western guy?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Young
like
Guns.
everybody
Young
wants
Guns
to
was
hate
my
on this
movie when I was a kid, man.
Magnificent 7 remake, and I just want to kick them all in the nuts because that
No.
movie's going to be great.
I'm super excited for that. I can't wait.
Yeah. It looks great.
No,
I'm
I grew up.
stoked.
My father loved westerns, so I grew up with Young Guns and Tombstone and all of that. So
Oh yeah, Tombstone's amazing, still holds up. Silverado's really great. Like all that stuff from that era. More recently, 310 to Yuma is amazing.
that's a great
I mean,
movie.
my favorite movie the last 10 years is Mad Max Fury Road, which I'm sure you guys have never heard me say
Oh, we
before.
know.
I was really hoping to bring it up here, but the reason I love Mad Max so much and the reason I like these movies I'm saying and I like The Dark Tower so much is they're all basically westerns. Like
Yeah.
there's something about that mythos, and it's the only I love talking about this. It's the only it's America's mythology. We don't have another one. So if you go to ancient Greece or Rome or something, you've got these amazing mythologies of great gods who, interfered with humanity, and they have these amazing things. You go to Egypt and you've got these amazing stories of Ra and Anubis and all this really cool stuff. They've got these 1,000-year-old legends, thousands of years old legends, in all of these places in the world except here. Because here we're kind of still new at the joint. We've
No.
only been here a few hundred years.
We have
We're
Jesse
not
James.
really-
We have the Pinkertons. We have Billy the Kid.
we have it exactly, and none of it is based on reality. I mean, it's based on some reality.
It's
but
based
it's
on
not,
dime
it's
novels.
all,
Man.
it's all out there and created in a place that seems like it's self-contained and never ended. So like westerns feel like they are in a world of their own, and all of these stories fit within that for me. And Mad Max, and at its very core, is a big gnarly western in a desert.
Mm-hmm.
So all you need to give me is a desert, some kind of horse or horse-like equivalent, and a dude who can kick and I'm in. And if
So
you
you
never,
must-
if you guys have never seen, what's it called? Open Range.
Yep, I've seen it.
You got to see Open Range.
The one that Nick Cave wrote, the Australian. It's a western, but it's Australian.
That's
cannot-
called.
I can't think of the name of it, but you know it, right?
It's got Ray Winstone in it, and
Yeah.
freaking like the Hillcoat guy directed it.
The
who
starts
did
with
Road.
starts with a P, right? The
Yes.
Who was in it?
Some-
Nate, who was an actor that was in it?
Okay, so it was, Ray Winstone was in it, and then the main guy was. He's the Australian guy that's in everything.
Yeah, he was in Iron Man.
Yeah, the bad guy in Iron Man.
Yeah.
Not you'll never see him coming. Not that guy. The other one. The one that was the real bad guy.
All I can think of is the prophecy, but that's not it.
I can't think of his name. He's in a million
Ray
movies.
Keep going,
He was in
keep going.
Memento. He's the Memento guy. That guy.
Yeah, it's a great movie, regardless.
Oh, it's amazing. It's violent as hell and back, but it's
Before
so
The
good.
Departed, The Proposition. That's what it is.
Oh, The Proposition. That's it.
Yeah, great
That's
flick.
a really
man.
good movie. I don't want to tell anyone to see this on purpose, but I saw Bone Tomahawk a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago.
I hear that's awesome. I haven't seen that
Oh,
yet.
that is a weird freaking thing. I don't even know why that exists.
I've gotta
I
see
liked it
that.
too, but phew, that's something else, man.
Here I am getting excited about that, trying to drink this beer with the bottle cap still on.
Oh, and I'll say one other thing. I believe this in my heart, and the reason I think I've always loved that show is because at its heart, it's another Western.
Yeah.
It's Fargo. I freaking love Fargo, the show.
It is
The
another
first two
Western. You're
seasons-
totally correct.
It's amazing. It's so good, dude. Just
Yeah.
everyone stop what they're doing and watch Fargo. It's one of the best things I ever did this year. So good.
So with the Western love, which any of your fans were aware of it, everything, it's either Mad Max or Westerns, which again, one and the same almost. You
Sure.
must be really excited with the rumors, and I don't know, I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but with Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That first game was game of the generation as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
In 2010 when it came out, it was the most satisfying game experience I had. I played it to completion twice. I never do that with games. I have too many to play, and yet I did with that one. It was really something special.
Yep.
So if they are indeed working on it, and given the kind of work that went into GTA 5, it's a slightly different studio, but still
Right.
Rockstar. They have the potential to just blow it out of the water, and I am beyond stoked for a sequel or a prequel, or I don't care what they want to do.
I believe,
Hey,
and she'll have to correct me if I'm wrong because I know she listens to the show. But one of our one of your tadpoolers, I believe has her name in the credits for Red Dead Redemption. She, Amy Frost. She used to work for Rockstar,
oh, cool.
and I do believe Red Dead Redemption was one of the games that she had a part in.
That's amazing.
So, and I remember that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I
That
remember
is
that
cool.
coming
I didn't
up.
know that.
Yeah, she because she lives right in Mansfield.
I have another
So-
question. Quick aside. I'm sorry. Frog Pants store. I'm looking at the sci-fi landscape. Did you do this?
Yeah.
Ironically
Yeah.
enough, I have this as a screensaver. I didn't know it was yours, but I'm looking at it now. So is that the monolith from 2001 right in the middle? Oh,
Yes,
man.
you got a monolith and a little monkey there.
Man, you and I need to be best friends.
Oh, that's amazing that you had that. That one's weirdly over the years has been one of my best sellers. I need to actually do a follow up to it because there's a lot of things I want to add and change and do
Yeah.
something new.
Could you?
With something similar to that? I want to do a video game landscape thing at some point
Yeah.
where it's just like all these popular video game characters. But yeah, that one's mine. That one's
Okay.
been interesting.
So-
This is back. This is like '09, so this is like when like Avatar was a big deal. So
Right.
there was like the
Yeah,
Avatar
I
dude
see
on
it.
top
I
of
see it.
the Stargate gate.
Dude, I'm gonna spend so much money right now. It's ridiculous.
I need to confer with you at one point and have you draw up one of my tattoos.
Oh, dude, I remember when I saw you. I mean, I didn't see your back, obviously, but I remember going, "This guy's got some ink on him."
Oh yeah, I'm fully covered. Well, not fully,
Yeah,
not as
yeah.
fully as I want to be. Getting there,
Yeah, cover up. I don't want to
awesome.
look at you.
but yeah, I think my next adventure in that market, I'm gonna try and sleeve up one of my legs, and I think I'm gonna do like a Heroes of the Storm thing, and have the backwash be like the purplish blue hue with the stars, and then put some of my favorite heroes on there.
Kind of clashing in the foreground. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my ideas there. So that's one of my biggest passions is tattoos. It's something I love. For me, it's therapeutic.
Well, let me ask you a question, which I totally that's awesome and totally valid. I wonder, will you ever feel like you're running out of canvas? Like,
Oh, I
at some
already do.
Yeah, like that's the
Yeah.
only thing I always think about tattoos. Like people are really into it and do these amazing, intricate, like body wide things. I'm like, well, at some point you got no paper left.
There,
you know?
as you, okay. Here's this. Tell me if this analogy works for you. Do you know how? So when you're young,
Yeah.
you fly by the seat of your pants. You
Sure.
don't think about consequences. You don't think about tomorrow. You're just going.
Yep.
But then as you get older, you start to get a larger picture on life and you start to plan out a little bit more. You kind of try and make sure you're set for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And you kind of try and have a game plan.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
So
totally
with-
makes sense.
so with
You start having
tattoos-
kids and all that stuff.
Right. So with tattoos, it's the same idea. I got my first three the day I turned 18. And one of my old roommates who was completely sleeved up used to call me Scattertat because I just had them everywhere. So that analogy works because they you know, again, when I first started getting it, I got them everywhere. I didn't plan for what I was going to do there in the future. But now that I'm, you know, my running out of canvases, my getting older, in that now I'm more aware of the fact that I have limited body space. So I'm trying to plan it out more. I have a couple that fortunately were faded enough to where I had them covered. My one of my first tattoos was the Believe symbol from Disturbed's second album.
Oh, dude, that's a good album.
It was a great album, but it was a crappy tattoo. So I got it covered with a zombie Batman. And it's Batman. It's Batman all zombied out, and it has Gotham in the background with the bat symbol and the moon.
So you didn't have to like get like a skin graft like type thing to get rid of that. You just did over the top of it.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that how it
just
works?
got tattooed right over it. Yep.
Okay, all right.
So and
Well,
then
let's do that forever. Just keep layering, man.
my only issue there is most of my work is black and gray wash. That's really hard to go over. Yeah, but
Yeah, wait.
but yeah, no,
No, the technology is going to get better. You're going to be able to go to some like Walmart kiosk, put your arm in a hole, and it'll just wipe it all clean. And you start over or whatever.
yeah, or you can get like skin that you can just put on and have like your tattoos for the day that you wear.
And that's not creepy at all. That'd be good. I like.
No, it's like no, it's not. I forget that I said it. Really quick before I forget because I keep getting pestered in the chat room. There was a question that popped up. Ashley asks, besides what was covered back when we were talking about it, do you have any advice or tips for virgin podcasters that are about to start their first show?
Oh man, yeah. Boy, it's funny. It's such a. What I have to say to people is so like a like some people will email me and say, "Hey, I just started a podcast last Thursday. How do I get shirts made?" I'm like, no. You got to build your audience, man. You got to like. You can sell shirts, but it might take you years before anybody cares about your shirts.
Right.
Like it's not the kind of thing that you can just kind of hit the ground and then suddenly you're this sustaining business of regular revenue and, you know, advertisers coming to you and all that stuff. It takes a long time. So what I would tell people who are just wanting to get out there, have their voice heard, have something unique to say. First of all, have all of that I just said, have something unique to say, feel like you've got a unique voice in this space, and you probably do. You just either you don't know it or you just need to apply it to see if you do or not, and commit yourself to doing it. Like get out there, make it, whatever it is, and have the passion that you have for it. Don't care about numbers. Just put it up there. You'll get some listeners no matter what. You may not have 100 your first show. You may not have 50 your first show, but you're going to have somebody. And then keep going and keep going and keep going. And if you've got the energy for it and you have the time for it, just do it because you love it. Everything else then will be gravy. And I know that's hard to do in a world where we're all trying to make our way and pay for the car and get the house paid off and all the other crap we have to worry about. But it's the only, as far as I know, at this stage, if you're starting from scratch, it's really the only way to do it. And nobody wants to listen to a show that was manufactured to just make money. It just doesn't work that way. Right. I mean, that's how, like, what do they do for TV? If a new TV show comes on, they didn't go, guys, we need to make some money. How are we going to do it? What they do is they say, we need to make money on a show. So we're going to hire people who are very passionate about a thing they want to make. We're going to have Vince Gilligan make his big dream project called Better Call Saul or whatever, Breaking Bad. And we'll let him do his big creative thing and we'll make money because we know it'll be good. That's a different relationship than you, yourself, and I trying to make a podcast and also have it pay the bills.
Right.
So don't let that get in your head because you don't have that second party that can worry about the finances or worry about what numbers mean so you can just be creative. Instead, just be creative because you can very easily and cheaply put your stuff up online, mostly for free. And before you know it, you'll either know or you won't know if you're on the right track. And the right track could mean 10 listeners. The right track could mean 10,000 listeners. But you'll know. And also don't be afraid to pull out if it sucks. If you get down a year into doing this thing, don't think that you're a failure. Don't think that quitting now is a bad idea. Reassess, reattack, come back at it from a different angle, and start something else. It's impossible to know who you're going to snag the next time you throw your line in the water. So love it until you don't, and if you don't keep forcing yourself to do it, and then move on to the next thing that you love, and hopefully you'll find one that you do love, and it goes for a long time, and 10 years later you're talking about it. But don't hold yourself to some crazy standard because there is no standard. Just go do it. Just make a podcast. It's as simple as that. Just record it. Put it on the internet.
Get up and do it.
Just
Yeah.
make a thing like fucking Hardwick says. So you have a picture of the dude. That's awesome. Oh man.
See,
I have such a boner for you right now.
call on hold.
Well, sorry, Skype just took a fly.
No, it's all good. There we go.
I don't know what that was. Here,
So-
I'll send my video back. There you go.
I assume,
Oh,
Nate, you're
I
gonna...
had your video and then I lost it.
Yeah, Skype's starting to.
Is Skype
Take it.
crapping out?
Are we wrapping up anyway?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Here, let me check. Let me make sure it's not my bandwidth. It should be okay.
It could be mine because Time Warner sucks.
It's a good point.
That's
I've
very
heard that.
true.
I don't have them as an option out here,
Yeah,
but I hear they're bad.
I'm hoping the recent acquisition by who was it that just bought them out? You guys, Tom talked about it on GTNS.
Oh, is Comcast buy them?
No, because Comcast got shut down. It was the next one. I think you even talked about it.
Verizon, I think.
No,
maybe.
it began with a C,
I
I
don't know.
think. Anyway, it's not important.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, so I'm hoping that once that whole
Yeah.
acquisition goes through, I'm hoping that it fixes it.
Looks like I'm 200 down and about 180 up, so I don't think it's me.
No, let me. I'm
that's
gonna hang up and recall you.
All right, no problem.
So your orange cat got out.
Oh.
Out. Yeah, he's under the porch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's not. I literally chased him around the house.
All right, there we go. Now I see you. Oh, there we go. Now there you go. All right,
You see me?
we're in
All right.
business.
We're back. So
Sweet.
before we get too far off topic, I just want to go back to Dark Tower real quick.
Okay, and then we'll get ready to wrap
So
up.
Black Idris Elba, we mentioned Lagatha and not knowing what she was cast as. Do you think she could be Susanna Dean? And they just switch all the races around?
Oh, that's interesting. Here's the problem though with her. See, in the case of Roland, who cares? Because white guy, black guy, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't make a
the point
difference.
of him moving toward the tower and chasing after the black man or the black man, the man in black who fled across the desert. That stuff all doesn't really have any connection to his race at all.
No.
There's no story connection, but there is for her though.
This
Like
is true.
her backstory and her wheelchair story and everything to do with her prior to her being pulled into that dimension is very racially charged.
I totally
So-
agree. I just
Unless
wondered
they
if
just wanna
maybe
throw
they
that
would
away. And if they want to
Exactly.
throw that away, that's one thing. But it
Exactly.
seems like it's good stuff. I
It
would
is
rather
good
them
stuff.
explore that.
Yeah, and you have to cover Mort and everything, so all of that has correlation.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope they don't do that just for those reasons. But at the same time, once she's over, it doesn't make that big a difference.
Right.
You know.
Right. And my last question pertains to the Rogue One trailer. You've watched it?
Yep.
So in the end, you see the main character. She's in an Imperial pilot's uniform.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that she could be in one of the TIE fighters that in A New Hope knocks Vader off course, thus allowing Luke to not be shot and make the shot to destroy the Death Star?
Oh my gosh, dude. You're blowing my mind. I haven't heard this theory. Is this a real thing that's going around?
That's what I heard, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes is the answer because I don't even care if it's happening. That's a rad idea.
Right? Tie it all together.
I hadn't considered it at all, but okay. So my understanding was that they just stole the plans and got out of there, but maybe there's more to that than I think. Like,
killed me.
Did
They're
they
right there.
hang around during the time that then the rebels had the plans and made their moves, and
Right.
all the while, Alderaan gets blown up and then Han Solo's shooting what's his name, and I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
I think it would be a cool idea to bring it all together. She sacrifices herself so Luke can be successful.
Oh, it's an amazing idea. I love it.
Yeah.
That's a really cool option. And I hadn't really considered the fact that she's wearing the black TIE fighter outfit.
Right.
Because I guess those are like the little black tubes and stuff that are on that thing. Just
Yeah,
no
yeah.
helmet, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That would be cool.
I love that theory. I'm adhering to your theory. It's good.
He's on board. Let's contact Disney.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, we'll get ready to kind of wrap up. I think when I first invited, I think I said like 45 minutes to an hour, and we have graciously gone over that, and I appreciate you sticking around.
Sure.
Why
You
don't
made
you?
$44.85 off me so far, so
There you go. We're paying for your time. But no, this has been a real treat. It was a pleasure hanging out and chatting with you and learning more about kind of where it all began and just kind of being able to sit here and talk to you person to person.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, man. It's been my pleasure to be here. You guys have been great, and I knew this was going to be a good time. So thanks for having me, and I'm excited to see who you guys have on next. It sounds like you've got a pretty great range of guests so far, and it'll only go up from here. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been increasing, and a big thanks to the Frog Pants community. It was funny. People kept joking around with me like the first 12, 13 weeks or so of this show. It was basically the Frog Pants interview show. Because
Yeah.
that's what I did. It was either Tadpoolers or Frog Pants hosts.
Yep.
That's totally fine, and I know they were all obviously totally willing to, but it's cool to see what you guys are up to. I like it a lot. And I like the red light in your room. I didn't mention that before, but it's badass.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's actually red walls. And then I have the Philips Hue lights in the dome light up top, so I can change the colors around.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's little silly money that we spend here and there,
Yeah, but it's fun.
It is fun. It adds some flavor to the viewership.
Yep.
Yeah, you always, when I met you at BlizzCon, I'm like, this dude's freaking metal, man. Like, he is metal, like the truest sense of metal. And now I believe it even more because you got a red freaking metal room. That's what you've got.
Which is really funny because I listen to country music. I listen to metal too. Don't get me wrong. My 2-year-old loves jamming out to Slipknot with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, zombie Batman says hello.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see it. That's the zombie Joker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's this whole theme is gonna be this whole arm's gonna be zombie Gotham. So it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah. So in case we have anyone that doesn't follow you or listen to you, why don't you let some people know where you can be found and where they can listen to you in other ways?
Sure. Best place would be to go to frogpants.com. All the shows are listed there, all the artwork stuff, links to everything. It's all right there. Whenever there's something new going on or something popping, best place to follow me would be on Twitter at Scott Johnson. We also have a subreddit, frogpants.reddit.com. Good place to hang out and find people. But yeah, I'm usually out yapping about something. We got the Warcraft movie theater rental coming up, so a bunch of people are coming to that. That'll be news soon. You can get free comic book day prints on Free Comic Book Day in about a week. Excited about that. So lots going on. And yeah, Twitter really is my portal. So find me at twitter.com/Scott Johnson.
Very cool. Yeah, and make sure everybody sign up for the Free Comic Book Day because I've got prints from him and his daughter, and they are both amazing artists. You'll want them in your collection.
It's totally free too. It doesn't cost you a freaking dime. Everyone thinks there's a catch. There's not. It's just our yearly sort of appreciation thing, and everybody's welcome to get one, and we'll ship them anywhere where you live in the world. So
nice.
Awesome.
Keep your eye on that.
Giving back to the community.
That's right.
So as for this show, you guys can catch Mind of a Geek typically live on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch it at YouTube with /InkedGeekStudio/live, or starting tonight, you can catch us on Alpha Geek Radio for now in the special events channel because Monday nights are swamped for Todd. And then occasionally, like tonight, we have out of schedule shows to help accommodate our guests if need be. Follow us on Twitter at IG_Mind of a Geek. You can find the schedule for upcoming guests over at inkedgeekstudios.com. If you have a question or comment for an upcoming guest, go over to tiny.cc/MOAG submit. And if you are a content creator or designer in any way, please consider going to tiny.cc/MOAG guest and get yourself on the show. As always, if you enjoy what we give you here at Mind of a Geek and the rest of IG Studios, please consider going to patreon.com/IG Studios and help show your support for the show and for the studio. For those of you that already do that, it means so much to us, and we cannot thank you enough. Once again, a big thank you to Scott Johnson for taking the time to hang out with us this evening.
Definitely.
Thanks, man. You guys were awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
And a big thank you to our live listeners and the podcast listeners and Alpha Geek people. I have to remember them now. They're not in the script. I have to fix that. Yeah. So for Brandon, for myself, for Scott, and for the rest of IG Studios, thank you all again very much for listening. And we will see you this Monday with Daryl Crone from Wolf King Studios.
Excellent.
Have a good night, everybody. And now Soundbite's gonna...
So this is typical to our show.
Remind me to talk to you about soundboards once we go off air.
This freezes at the end every time.
Totally. For some reason, you guys are breaking up so bad.
This is Alpha Geek Radio.
All right. Yeah, the like I said, Time Warner sucks.
Here, listen to this. You can hear. I'll show you what you sound like. You ready? Listen to this. Nice. Wait.
All right. Yeah, the like I said, Time Warner sucks.
It's
Oh,
really
wow.
bad. Like
Wow.
this part, this thing with Fletcher at the end.
Oh, that was that what was coming through on your end?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully that was
I'm glad
just
it doesn't. I'm glad it doesn't sound as bad on your end because I think the upstream is